Hey, welcome back, Downfield Readers. This is Jeff D with Downfield Read, and we have, if you noticed, we've got a new guest with us today that we're going to introduce shortly here. Actually, shortly is right now. We're going to introduce him. Chris Iceman. We actually met on X, and it was through Greg Kellogg, who might be joining us also tonight. He's got his other show that he does with the sports affiliation. So he might be coming on a little bit later after he gets done with that one. But we both got invited to the league that we talked about on Tuesday night here on the Downfield Read, and that is the Beat a Hall of Famer 26.
Indeed.
So, Chris, we haven't really formally met each other. All we kind of know is what we've been drafting over the last week and a half here. So please introduce yourself, what you're doing, all that fun stuff. How did you get here?
So that is a long story, but so Chris Iceman _1013 on Twitter, or X as it is now. Been not really playing fantasy football that long, but myself, I've only been in the US since 2018, originally from the UK, and that's the lore behind why I am a Kansas City Chiefs fan.
Ooh.
That just happened to be, I joined my brother-in-law's fantasy football league. It was the first fantasy football I ever joined. And it's a one-person keeper league. And my keeper first season keeper was Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. So not knowing much, I just ended up following Mahomes for that first year. The rest, as they say, this was literally before they won their first Super Bowl, because he was a rookie. In year one, or it was his first full season. So that's I haven't been playing the fantasy football stuff too long. I got invited 3 or 4 years ago now. I started on another show called Toilets to Titles. Doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. But I did some stuff with them. Was fortunate enough to get introduced to Mr. Kellogg. Met him at one of several years ago at the Fantasy Football Expo up in Canton. Was invited, played in this league for a couple of years. And for the last 2 seasons, I've won the Beat a Hall of Famer league. So I have beaten Greg the last 2 years, and we're looking for 3 in a row this year. So, interesting stuff.
Yeah, I know you were kind of bragging about that, give you the throne right now. If I have anything to say about that, it won't be a three-peat. This is my first year in the league, but yeah, congratulations. That's some really early success. Now, you haven't been playing, like you said, fantasy football for very long. Being kind of a new person, I've been playing for about 30 years, being somebody that's new into playing fantasy football and having, if you want to call it, immediate luck or immediate skill. What would you say to, people that are either thinking about getting into fantasy football? How much time did you put in? Like, how hard was it for you to, get acclimated and find out knowledge, or did you just kind of trip and fall backwards into it?
Yeah, like I said, I've always followed the sport. Growing up, my dad followed the Chicago Bears. He was a big Joe Montana fan. Obviously following the sport in the 70s and 80s and whatnot. And then so I always really, first time I ever paid attention was the Super Bowl where the Rams beat the Titans, the 1 yard. By a yard. That's the first one that I can really remember. That's why I do have a soft spot for Tennessee. But I'd always paid attention to it. Like I said, played fantasy and didn't really know anything that first year. Just was kind of thrown into it, like I say, my brother-in-law's league. And then I got a bit more into it, certainly during COVID, with the lockdown. It really helped me be able to throw myself into it. And I joined some dynasty leagues and whatnot. And that certainly gives you pause to, pay attention, and you've really kind of then got to know what's going on. And for several years, like the last 4 or 5 years, I really did pay a lot of attention and try to pick up as much as I could from as many different sources as I could. And, this community is great in itself, the fantasy football community on X. And if you get a chance to go to the expo and actually meet and talk to all these people. There's so many support functions and resources out there for people that are brand new to it.
Absolutely.
And makes you feel really inclusive. There's not so much of the, making you feel bad, unless it's kind of that, talking in your league, you're kind of, going back and forth at one another and all of that kind of stuff. But that's a real nice camaraderie that you get. And to be perfectly honest with you, I did kind of fall into it. It's, beginner's luck or whatever you want to call it. But my big thing with people that are drafting, and you guys touched on it on Tuesday's show with like how you like letting the draft fall to you. My number one thing that I will say to people, whether you're drafting redraft, whether it's dynasty startup, whatever it is, you just have to be fluid. You cannot go in with just plan A and expect it to happen that way.
Right.
You have to have A, B, C, D, E, because you don't know what the guy in front of you is going to do or the girl in front of you is going to pick. That person, the way your draft is going to fall, you can have a plan, and we'll get into it with this draft in particular, but dependent on the way your league is set up, what the scoring is, and all of this stuff will fall into, okay, that's the plan I want to have going in, but you still have to be fluid, and if value drops to you, then you kind of have to take it, regardless of whether that was the position that you wanted to fill at that point. If the value is on the board, you're playing. It's like any form, like it's like anything. You're playing the other 9, 10, 11 people in your league as much as you are playing the game of luck with injuries and whatnot and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, a lot of it has been luck on my part, but I like to think that I'm not one of these people that spends a huge amount of time studying for a draft, because so much can happen. I've been in leagues where like you look and you think the first or second pick, and I'm in the 3 hole, and all of a sudden the guy in 1 picks his favorite player who should be the 8th or 9th pick, and all of a sudden it's wide open. You're like, hang on a second, I didn't you know what I mean? So
yeah,
anything can happen on any given draft day,
Yeah, that's great. And I was going to ask you what your one strategy or your one thing that you go into drafts typically is. But that's perfect. You kind of already answered that question. Yeah. And speaking of fluidity, you have to be prepared, obviously, for what's going to happen in there. And we've had a couple of things that have happened within the last couple of days. So I want to pick your brain on that. First of all, probably the newest of the news over the last 2 days is that Jahmyr Gibbs signed a 3-year, $75 million deal with the Detroit Lions to stay there, which was kind of predictable at the beginning of the week when Bijan signed his contract with Atlanta, got him off the books. I think he kind of set the stage, and it was go time for Detroit and Jahmyr to get along and get a contract done, which I'm super excited about. I didn't want to have another Le'Veon Bell type of situation going on in our league. I actually drafted Jahmyr number 1. So I was super thrilled to put that baby to bed. So that's been awesome. And then the second thing, and probably the most interesting one, even more interesting than the Jahmyr Gibbs re-signing, is Stephon Diggs. So he finally finds a home, right? Debo gets signed. Stephon gets a deal done with the Washington Commanders. It's a 1-year, $10 million deal. And he is automatically now the number 2 guy, as you would expect, on the Washington Commanders. Last year, obviously, he was on the Super Bowl, AFC champs, New England Patriots. He brings his 85 receptions, 1,013 yards, and 4 touchdowns along with him. How do you feel about that signing in Washington? And who do you believe that, if anybody, it helps? And who does it hurt on that offense?
I love it for the fact that I drafted Stephon Diggs in our Hall of Fame league before he signed.
Very fitting.
Yeah. So it is fitting. I think it's a great fit for him. Great signing for Washington. It obviously hurts Terry McLaurin. as the alpha in that offense. I don't think it changes anything. Terry is still an unbelievable receiver, and he's still going to get the lion's share of the targets. It definitely helps Jaden Daniels coming back and giving him another weapon, another person, like you say, that has put up multiple 1,000-yard seasons when he's fully healthy. So that's, right. I think the big question is, which Stephon Diggs do we get? Do you get the one that puts up another 1,000-yard season? Because that's only going to help Washington, going forward on their offensive side. They have a question mark to answer, obviously, at running back, and how they're gonna run the ball. But this definitely helps Jaden Daniels, gives him another weapon. Quite what they're going to do at tight end is a question. I know I've seen some videos of Zach Ertz, coming back from his injury, whether he's going to be fit. I've also, funnily enough, ended up now with, I think, 3 Washington Commanders players on my team in this league, because I did just take Chig Okonkwo, the tight end, because I do like him. He obviously played at Tennessee, and I think he's going to be another potential weapon for them to use. But it will be very interesting how they set up. But I definitely like it as a landing spot. There's definitely value there from a fantasy perspective as well, for the two of them, because Jaden Daniels can be good enough to feed 2 wide receivers and then both do well in fantasy. So, it all depends what they're going to do this year. And, if Jaden Daniels can stay fit for the whole season, because I know he's had a number of different injuries, like upper and lower body, so if he can get through those and he can stay fit, then I really like this from both a fantasy perspective and for Washington fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Terry McLaurin usually going in the 4th round right now. I don't think that really changes anything.
No.
I think it negatively impacts him a little bit, and that's kind of the knee-jerk reaction of, hey, how is this going to affect the team? If anything, you look at the other wide receivers on the team that they had. You've got rookie who drops down to wide receiver 3 now with Antonio Williams coming out of Clemson. You got Luke McCaffrey, Treylon Burks, Diami Brown, who I really liked. When he came over from Philadelphia, I thought he was really going to make an impact with Washington. But those guys get pushed back a notch now, so obviously it negatively impacts them a little bit more. But does it negatively impact Terry McLaurin? I think it kind of helps him, because without a really solid number 2 wide receiver there, he was going to get double teamed all the time. And now you can't do that. Now you gotta keep an eye on Stephon Diggs. I think if anybody, you kind of mentioned it before, who's going to be the running back? I think it hurts the third down passing game a little bit if you're looking for a PPR running back. And maybe that was going to be Rachaad White. I think that affects him. I think it definitely affects Chig Okonkwo, because you're looking at Stephon Diggs probably taking more of the short yardage game away, the underneath routes. So, definitely. But great. They needed a number 2, so great job for them. But it looks like you took Stephon Diggs. Here's the funny thing: you're going to get sniped in fantasy football. And that's kind of the fun part of it. You mentioned it before. You have to have a plan B. You took Stephon Diggs in the 12th round. I was going to take him with my next pick, which was like 4 or 5 picks later. I ended up going with Rashid Shaheed. He was kind of my backup plan. But some of these guys, it's just kind of fun to, if you're drafting before Debo got signed by San Francisco, you still got Keenan Allen out there. Who and where is he going to sign with? So that's a fun little thing too.
Definitely. And that's all about like the timing of your draft as well. When that happens, because I'm in some redraft leagues that, the one I talked about, my brother-in-law's one, it used to happen beginning of the summer before the preseason games took place. And there was a lot of injuries that then happened to like players. And it's like, now we kind of draft much closer to the start of the season. When you've been through those preseason games, you kind of see how some of the teams are starting out, how they've set up. And you can't fully trust what happens in training camp or what these teams are necessarily doing in these preseason games, because they're not going at a full clip. They're not putting their entire starting lineup out. But it does allow you to actually make sure that you've gone injury free through preseason and you're starting the year well. So it definitely depends on, there's just little things that will adjust dependent on all of those different things that can happen.
Absolutely. So we're doing this live right now, and we're actually doing it during, I think the first game of the preseason is on tonight, the Carolina Panthers and the Arizona Cardinals. And outside of having the Raiders be a part of that matchup, this has got to be one of the more boring games. Usually preseason games, I might watch the first quarter. Not really interested in a lot of guys from either one of those teams, except for Love, obviously on the Cardinals, if they're going to have him out there going. It's going to be an interesting backfield with the Arizona Cardinals this year. So we'll see how that all hashes out. Then obviously you've got the speculation of Marvin Harrison Jr. Is he going to continue to struggle, or is he going to step it up? You've got the Carolina Panthers, and they lost Chris Razzle-Dazzle-Barazzle coming out of Tennessee. He was a great rookie that they took in the third round there. I was really looking forward to him. I thought he had one of the highest IQs coming out of the draft with all of the different routes that he could run. Very smart finding the hole in the defense. I was looking forward to him, but unfortunately, we're going to have to wait another year to see him. We'll see how that wide receiver room hashes out as well. But hey, this is a fantasy football show as well. So we talked about a little bit. We are both in the Beat a Hall of Famer 26 this year. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen that has our league that's still drafting. It's still drafting right now. I think we're in like round 17, 18. Yeah. I think we're in 18 right now. And you, have you picked yet? You got to be getting close if you haven't.
Yeah, no, I think I did. I took a second defense, which is always fun. Always fun in these leagues when you have the special teams and kickers. Again, gives you something different that you have to think about.
All right. And let's go. Sharing this tab. Can you see my screen? Are we sharing this right now?
I can. You're sharing the screen, but it's your other fantasy league one.
Oh,
so it was a screen.
We're going to add that back up there. All right.
Yeah, there you go.
So there we go. And I am going to go ahead and I'm just going to make this the entire screen. Well, you know what? People can probably see that from here. We're going to be talking about it anyway. So
yeah.
So we left off on Tuesday night show with Sean Pettinati from the coach's desk. We were talking about the top 5. Now we're getting into round 6. And so starting off on that round 6, we're starting off with that team number 12. Obviously, this is a snake draft. And if you don't know what that means, that's fine. It just means that we go from 1 to 12, 12 to 1, 1 to 12, 12 to 1. And Chris had mentioned before, redraft league. That basically just means that we are starting brand new. There are no keepers. Like he had mentioned before, I'm in a keeper league where we keep 3. You could be in a dynasty fantasy football league where you're keeping a whole team and you're just drafting rookies. But this is a clean slate type of a league. So when we are getting into that 6th round, and Chris, can you see this clearly enough to see all the players? Okay. So we start off with Tucker Kraft on the left there, and we get through to Brian Thomas, Roma Dunzi, and all the way down. So getting into your pick here, I find it, I have DK Metcalf in one of my leagues as well, and I think I took him in the 5th or 6th round too when I was picking in the number 3 spot. Was this hey, he's the best guy on the board type of deal? Because you had 3 wide receivers out there, and obviously this is a 1 PPR league. Or do you really like Metcalf this year with Rodgers throwing to him, Pittman being the number 2? How do you feel about Metcalf?
He's the one pick. Oh, he's not like 5th and 6th rounds. Like going into this, the way it's set up and the way I've played it the last couple of years, that's obviously worked out pretty well for me. It's 2 running backs to start, 3 wide receivers you have to start, and then 3 flex. So
yep,
I always tend to go wide receivers early because I need more of them. Plus, I know historically, knowing the people that I'm drafting with, and that they're going to go running back kind of early. So, and I know Coach talked about this on Tuesday, where he went a lot 0 running back fully. Yep. I kind of didn't, because I got a little bit scared early that like I need an RB1. But DK Metcalf was not my choice. I wanted Brian Thomas or Roma Dunze to fall to me in this round. And but they went early, right? They went second and third picks in the third round. So early enough for me to go, okay, now what do I do? DK Metcalf is athletically, he's a freak, right? Like he's ridiculous, like in that sense. Scary because again, Aaron Rodgers, like if it's Aaron Rodgers that turns up for Pittsburgh this year and actually can throw him the ball, then yeah, sure, like no problem with it. No problem with Pittman going in and being. It's exactly what we talked about with Diggs being the 2.
Yeah,
you actually give defenses something to think about here. So that should hopefully free DK up a little bit more. So I'm not too worried. Like he, for me, was the best available on the board. I wasn't taking a tight end at this point. You know, Harold Fanning goes just after. Kyle Pitts goes in the next round. I'm not taking any of those guys at that pick.
Right.
And running back at this point is kind of in that, and this was it's kind of a gray area for me. Like, you know, the Dowdles, the Warrens, Hubbard, Pollard, they're real hit and miss for me.
Yep.
Like that area, I don't particularly feel strongly about any of them. So for me, it really was, you know, from a receiver perspective, it was probably between DK Metcalf and Cortland Sutton. And yeah. I just feel like DK has more opportunities for a better year this year than Cortland Sutton does. But it could, I have them both very close. But yeah, it's just kind of best available. And I don't mind having him being my 4th wide receiver because I have to play 3 of them, right? I have to have 3 starting receivers. So I need to be a little bit deeper on receiver than I do running back for the most part. So
yeah, absolutely. I thought that was a solid pick as well. Obviously, being in Pittsburgh as he is, he got 100 targets last year, 850 yards, 6 touchdowns. They got a brand new coach in there, Mike McCarthy. We know that he likes to run the ball, pass the ball. So him and Aaron Rodgers meet back up again, and that should be an interesting duo for those guys. My pick, Jaylen Warren. Again, this whole area just seemed like a gray area, like you mentioned, from Fannin all the way around the turn to Parker Washington. Was just kind of like, boy, who do we go with here? I went with Jaylen Warren 2 picks after Rico Dowdle, after coach picked Rico Dowdle. I was like, well, I was going to go with Jaylen Warren anyway. I figure he's got a little bit of a head start on Rico Dowdle. We saw how much, again, Mike McCarthy played Rico Dowdle in Dallas when they were both there. We know how much he thought of him after he basically let him go. So, I don't know if that's a happy marriage between those two, but I'm sure that Dowdle will find a niche in that game as well. Who did you find like a best pick out of looking at everybody in that round? Who is your favorite pick that you just, you're looking at that going, yep, 6th round, nailed it?
I think Rome Odunze. I don't think he should have dropped that far, to be honest. He probably could have gone. I'll be honest. I was tempted to take him in the 5th round, 5. Jameson Williams, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, the 3 guys going at the back end of the 5th round. You could easily have taken Rome Odunze over any of those 3, in my opinion. So for him to fall to the 3rd pick in the 6th round, I thought that to me is good value. And then, I like the Sam Laporta pick there in the 6th pick of the 6th round. Again, it's a solid pick at tight end. He's I think right where that tight end, the tiers switch. And he's the last of kind of like the upper tier of tight ends because you know what you're going to get out of Sam Laporta in Detroit with Jared Goff. He showed it last season. So I do like that pick there as well. Sam Laporta wasn't on my radar because I was punting tight end. So wasn't thinking about that anyway, but yeah, I like those. Those are my 2 favorite picks of the 6th round.
I like those. I loved the Byshell Tootin pick. And I wish that he would have fallen to me. And when you look at that situation in Jacksonville, I get the fact that, he's fallen right now into the 6th round. I would consider him. I would consider taking him maybe even late 5th round, mid 5th round. When you take a look at the situation, what they had in Jacksonville last year, they had Travis Etienne. He got the bulk of the carries. Now he's not there anymore. So they even got rid of Byshell Tootin. They got rid of a different guy. Was it? There was another running back that they were so confident in Travis Etienne and Byshell Tootin that they flat out got rid of somebody else even before the season started, and everyone was like, "Holy crap, you guys just got rid of a good running back." But they go with him knowing that, hey, you know what? We took this guy in the 4th round, and he's a powerhouse back. He didn't get a whole lot of carries, only 300 yards last year with a 3.7 per yard average. But I got to tell you, for the times that he did play, they put him in short yardage areas. So, I guess the negatives about him are, well, he couldn't break tackles. Well, he was running between the tackles a lot. So how many tackles do you really expect him to break? He got 5 touchdowns last year, and now he's going to be the feature back in Jacksonville. So, you're looking at a true number 1 there, and where you could say, gosh, after that, who's the next true number 1? And even to say that on the back end of the 5th round there, you got Travion Henderson. Is it going to be him or is it going to be Stevenson? So, and how well do we know that Price is going to do in Seattle? But Tootin, I think, was one of my favorite picks coming out of that round.
I don't think you can argue with that. Like, Jacksonville just always seem to be they should do well, and I don't think they've not really worked it out what the right combination is to unlock the potential that they have in that offense. Yeah. And maybe Tootin is it, but I don't know. Like you said, it's going to be definitely interesting to see how he does, like, thrust into that position. They obviously the coaching staff there have seen something in him last year and this year, to be able to get rid of Etienne and really only bring in Rodriguez from the Commanders as the RB2. So Tootin doesn't seem to have anything in his way from being the RB1 in that offense. And hey, if he does well first couple of games, then he could genuinely be a league winner, in that sense, with the amount of volume that he could get with not much competition for touches.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And you've got Chris Rodriguez, who's not really a formidable backup, right? I mean, you've got some backfields that have 2 really good running backs. Chris Rodriguez, not really the guy that they're going to be bringing in. They're going to probably play the Tootin most of the year. And you're already looking at Chris Rodriguez has some kind of an injury. In training camp. So not a great start for them. I think he's going to get the bulk of the carries. And just because he's going to get the bulk of the carries, I think he has the potential to end as a top 10 running back this year.
Yep.
Anybody in this round that you're thinking, wow, I wouldn't have taken him that early?
I mean, not really. Like, it's quite like there's a couple of risky picks. You've got 2 rookies in there, the 2 rookie receivers, Tyson and Tate, both go in there. But again, I kind of situationally, they're both in bad offenses. You know what I mean? Like, let's be real. Like,
it is.
Saints and Titans are not. They're not the most trusted. Like, you're not going to trust each other, but there's potential. They have the potential for breakout years. Like, if they come, because again, same kind of thing as Tootin, like the competition for touches. And, you've got Chris Olave, obviously, in New Orleans, who I really like and just hasn't had the QB play that could really, like, bring out the best in him. Exactly. Maybe Tyson coming in and, giving something else to the offense if, they can get the QB play right this year from the get-go, rather than, it seemed in times last year it was like, well, you can have a quarter, then you can have another go, and then they didn't know. Hopefully this year they can get some clarity on that, and it can start to settle the offense. And then Tate, in Tennessee with Cam Ward, like, again, another year, his rookie year under his belt. I do like the matchup. I just would wait and see, like, next year. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Like, if this was Dynasty, absolutely Tate would have been a top pick. In redraft, it's risky. There are probably more settled players that could have gone earlier there. Like you took Sutton 2 picks, or the next, you were up with back-to-back picks the next one after. And then you get the 2 Arizona guys. You kind of touched on Marvin Harrison and Wilson. I would have been fine taking Wilson there, to be honest, over Marvin Harrison. I just think he had the better end of last season.
Mm-hmm.
Harrison has the talent, but it's not been realized yet. Like he's still got to prove that he is the alpha in that offense. And at the end of last season, Wilson was doing that. He was stepping up and delivering 100-yard games. So yeah, I think again, risky, and that's the risk with any rookie. Like how are they going to adapt from college to the NFL? Are they going to step up? They're learning a brand new offense. They're trying to make that rapport with a brand new quarterback. Some of them get it straight off the bat. Some of them it takes a while for them to build, and that's the risk that you take with it. And I feel like these guys that have taken them kind of know that it's a little bit risky. But again, in their minds, they're looking at it going, well, who else? Anyone at that point. And in this middle part of a draft, it really is, it's not the elite players. If you're finding an elite player or with elite opportunity, like you said with Tootin, if you're lucky enough to find that diamond in the rough, like at this point in the draft, then you're doing really well.
Yeah.
And
I like the Carnell Tate pick only because of the situation that he falls under. You were correct. I don't, looking at Cam Ward from last year, didn't wow anybody, and Tyler Shug didn't wow anybody either. They're on pretty poor passing offenses. Carnell Tate goes in, and you already mentioned Chris Olave, in New Orleans. He's the number one. He's the alpha there.
Yeah.
Carnell Tate walks into a wide receiver room of Wan'Dale Robinson, who was brought in brand new. And then you've got Calvin Ridley, who Stonehands, he can't figure out how to run routes all of a sudden. He's dropping a lot of passes. There's questions about whether or not he's even going to be on the team to start the regular season. Carnell Tate, that thrusts him right at number one. So I think that's great for him. Are they going to win a lot of games? No, they're probably going to fall behind quite a bit. But if Cam Ward can get his feet underneath them, get some kind of rhythm in there, I think Carnell Tate and him, you're looking at a combination that's going to last for a long time in Tennessee. I think that's a great start. So that's my take on the 2 wide receivers there. Coming around the corner on round number 7, again in the middle of the draft here, you've got quite a few people. I took Cortland Sutton with my first pick in the 7th round after taking Jaylen Warren. And it was, to your point, we've got 3 wide receivers that we have to start. We've got 3 flex players that we got to put in there. Cortland Sutton was really great last year down the stretch. I had him and Bo Nix, and I kind of paired them up sometimes when the matchup was right. But Cortland Sutton, I see that kind of like a Terry McLaurin and a Stephon Diggs type of situation. They bring in a Waddle from Miami, and now you've got, it's almost like a wide receiver 1A and a wide receiver 1B. So I think it's a great situation with Cortland Sutton. That's why I took him. They should be a high scoring offense. They should be, maybe another division champ again. Depends on how that division hashes out. I also like Parker Washington. A lot of people don't like Parker Washington in Miami because there's a lot of question marks about Malik Willis down there. But what else are they going to do? Like when they're passing, it's going to be to Parker Washington, right? Achane he's going to run the ball. He's going to catch a lot of passes out of the backfield. But at the end of the day, I don't see him getting too far ahead. And Parker Washington's going to catch a lot of passes. But you go ahead. You took a quarterback in this round here in round 7. And after seeing, my pick, I took May in 5 and then Burrow went 5. That was it until your pick. 6, nobody took it. And it started to make me question. I was so happy when you took quarterbacks. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I took a running back quarterback too dang early here. So, but you went with Jalen Hurts. Thought process around that?
This quite honestly was best available. Like the value on it at that point, like you said, like the whole of the 6th round, I'm sat there going, one of these guys at this back end of the draft is going to take someone. Because it's funny, the first 4 quarterbacks to go all went to the first 4 picks in the draft, but in wildly different places. Second round, 4th round, 5th round. So like no one that back end of the draft had taken a quarterback. And it's funny when you sit there and like the way that it goes, like, and you now like have to wait 16 picks from when and I'm like, how many quarterbacks are going to go? Like none of these guys have a quarterback yet. So, and this is the same as my thought process with the defense that I take later on, is like, I have to wait 16 picks until I'm up again. All of these guys need a quarterback. If I don't go now and take my pick, then by the time we get back round, to me, I'm going to have at least a whole tier of quarterbacks that I can't choose from. So that was really the thought process there. And Jalen Hurts, with the dual threat that he is, he's going to score touchdowns. He's going to take those, off Saquon Barkley again all year. The tush push, like they didn't ban it. Like the defenses haven't worked out how to stop it. So his value really comes in, with those touchdowns. And if he can work out the offense without AJ Brown this year, and the Slim Reaper Devonta Smith can step up to wide receiver 1, again, like I said, the value is there. Like for me, it was between him and Dak, just purely for the flat out, like the passing points. I just don't think Dak is going to necessarily do the same thing he did last year. Not to the level, you know what I mean? Like he's still gonna sling the ball a lot and feed CeeDee Lamb. And I think you guys talked about it on Tuesday with, Pickens is probably gonna drop off a little bit from the career year that he had last year. And I agree with that. So for me, I think it was just the dual threat in fantasy that you get with Hurts being able to pick up and run the ball. And again, like knowing that I wasn't going to get, like he definitely wasn't going to make it all the way back round. Dak wasn't going to make it all the way back round. And the other one that I was then tempted, my option would have been, if I don't take him here, who am I taking at quarterback?
Yeah.
Is Caleb Williams making it back to me? The answer to that question ended out to be no. He didn't make it back and wouldn't have made it back. So yeah, I'm happy with the choice there, because then you're looking at Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, kind of Bo Nix, the types of quarterbacks that went afterwards. And whilst they're that similar, like last year's finishing positions are kind of like there's a few in and around, I wanted to guarantee that I was getting one of the guys that I wanted, rather than wait and see kind of like who was left by the time it came back around to me.
Yeah, and you hit that tier too, right? I mean, like we mentioned, the quarterbacks weren't taken. The tier 1 quarterbacks were gone. We can call this tier 2 quarterbacks with Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Prescott. And if you look at it, your pick and then the next 13 picks afterwards, there's 5 quarterbacks that go off the board. So to your point, you started kind of this whole thing where you're making people think, oh, shoot, now I really have to pick a quarterback. Jaden Daniels goes later that round, Dak Prescott, and so on. If you take that out of the equation, say all those guys go, and maybe you decided to take Kyle Pitts or, one of the wide receivers from Arizona. Now you're looking at Justin Herbert, Pat Mahomes, maybe Bo Nix, Dart, Kyler Murray, who I'm not a fan of, but there you go. So you set yourself up, and you're also taking out, with AJ Brown leaving, you take out 121 targets, right? Now, is he going to find all of that in Mekhi Lemon? No, he's not. Which means he's probably going to take off more, right? He's going to take off running, which is great for a dual threat quarterback. He's just, I think his value goes up exponentially at that point. Maybe even makes him, he should have maybe been picked in the 6th round, anywhere in the 6th round. I was actually surprised that he fell that low.
Yeah.
So outside of your pick, do you have a favorite pick in there? We kind of talked about, hey, the question marks between the Arizona running backs, Jaden Daniels, before they signed Stephon Diggs. Do you think that was a fair spot? Or knowing this in hindsight now, would Jaden Daniels have been a coin toss for you between him and Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the addition of Diggs makes him a lot more, he's a much nicer prospect in fantasy now with that second option. Like we said, at the time, he didn't have that. And for me, like I said, it was between I would have had Jaden Daniels probably just behind Dak and Caleb Williams in with the tiers and the way it went. He went first. and then Dak, and then Caleb shortly after. So I don't mind, like, they're all around the same spot. So yeah, I mean, it didn't surprise me that they all kind of went. I do like, and one of the things that we get here I wanted to talk about is so Greg will be able to answer this if he jumps on, but he set himself up to be on auto pick, right? Like, he set his queue and he set himself to be auto pick all the way through. Now, the problem with that, as from what I've talked about, is he can't be fluid in changing. So my question to him is he going in every day to see how many picks we've made and going, okay, now I need to adjust some of my rankings to go, because with that, like you said, I started the run there of taking the quarterbacks. He clearly didn't have a quarterback lined up to take that early. But then he kind of looks like he's viewed it after he's taken Ramondre Stevenson, which I think is a great pick there at the end of that round, to be honest, because I do think that he's still there. He hasn't gone anywhere. Like, he's still going to eat into Trevion Henderson's, share in the backfield. Sure. But it looks like Greg had set himself up, takes Stevenson and Josh Downs, which again is a pick I don't mind. Like, Josh Downs has looked great in training camp, and like in Indianapolis, again, Pittman's gone. Someone's got to catch the ball for Indianapolis. So I like the two picks. My question to him, it just looks like he all of a sudden then checked it halfway through the 8th or 9th round and went, I don't have a quarterback. Now I need to pick a couple. And you see that what he then does is his next two picks are both quarterbacks, so that he gives himself some choice, which I feel is, the longer you leave it, you kind of then have to go, well, not 100% sure about either of these guys. So I have to now take two, so that every week we can go, okay, like, who's playing well, who's not, because they're in that kind of second, third tier. Again, talk about Patrick Mahomes as a second or third tier quarterback, I think is obviously ridiculous. But from a fantasy perspective, coming back from injury. So yeah, that's my question for him is, like, did he, would he have changed his decision, and would he have taken someone like Caleb Williams at that pick where he's taken Ramondre Stevenson or Josh Downs? Would he have changed his way once he started to see, okay, now we've lost a couple more quarterbacks? Am I changing it? Or he was set with, no, this is the way I'm going to punt quarterback until 8th or 9th round anyway, regardless of how many go, because there are players later on that I can take and still be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting into the next round here, we've got round 8, and we pick at the back end there with Josh Downs, as we mentioned. We kind of mentioned Wan'Dale Robinson as well, being that number 2 behind Carnell Tate. Or maybe he will be the number 1. Is he kind of a number 1 if Carnell Tate is a little bit sluggish getting out of the gates there? And then we've got a lot of backups that are coming in afterwards. So I thought the funny thing with a couple of my picks, we mentioned the Rico Dowdle and Jalen Warren there that happened 3 picks apart. In this round, you picked R.J. Harvey.
Yeah.
And then 4 picks later, I went J.K. Dobbins. There might be a trade. Coming out between us at some point in time if one of these guys gets hurt. But it opens up an interesting, another fantasy football kind of draft strategy. I haven't picked a handcuff for any of my running backs. Are you a believer in handcuffs, or not so much? Just get the next best guy that's there? Or do you kind of keep that in the back of your mind? Like, hey, I have, maybe in my situation, I drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. Maybe I should be actively going after Isaiah Pacheco. Do you believe in handcuffs?
Sometimes, yes. Not a huge amount. Like, at the end of the day, you're playing
that you follow. Anyway.
No, I don't. It's not a strict. It's definitely not. I think there are certain players that you probably should, based on injury history, right?
Sure.
So someone like CMC, like, if I'm taking Christian McCaffrey, I'm taking the handcuff because he's going to be run into a wall, like, it's game after game in Shanahan's offense in San Francisco. You saw it happen last year. You saw it the season before. So people like that, yes, like, if you're taking them with your first round pick, and again, I think this was something that Coach said on Tuesday, you're not going to win your draft in round one with your first round pick, but you could lose it. And the way to make sure that you don't necessarily lose it, certainly with running backs, is to take the handcuff. Very difficult to do that with receivers because, next man up is already gone at this point. But with the running backs, like, you're not, at the end of the day, you're drafting these players and you're assuming that they're all playing a full season, right? You're drafting based on,
absolutely,
I'm expecting these players to play a full year. Now, yeah, when you get to this part of the draft, you're picking players that probably have got a history of injuries. Like the game that we watch, right? Like, to go through an entire season without picking up a knock is the players are on the players that do that are in the minority because of the nature of the game. But yeah, like, it's not for me something that is a specific strategy where I say, right, I'm going to take. Last year, you might have been the only one I can really think of would have been Gibbs and Montgomery, where you're like, actually, like, if I can get both of these guys, like if I get Gibbs early in round one and I can pick up Montgomery in the 4th or 5th, then absolutely. Like, because I mean, both of these guys are going to score a touchdown every week, and it pretty much paid off. Like, so unless you have that kind of, 1-2 punch in the backfield, I don't take handcuffs too much. That being said, you scrolled down, I took Breece Hall as my RB1, and I don't like the fact that I'm reliant on New York freaking team at all. So I live in New York, and I hate betting on New York sports teams, and I hate relying on them for anything, Knicks last season aside.
Right.
But yeah, I took Braylon Allen later on because of my own personal distrust in New York sports teams. So I was like, you know what? Like, I don't have, for me, a trustworthy RB1, so I am going to handcuff him. But I like Braylon Allen anyway. Like, at standalone value, I think Braylon Allen will, has got the potential to be a very good NFL running back. I liked what I saw of him last season. So, yes, I did take a handcuff, but that was more of a, like I said, that wasn't a specific strategy going in. So, yeah, again, it becomes one of those throughout, when you're looking, and we're talking about these teams where you go, okay, what is going to happen? So, Jacksonville, you talked about that, like, what's happening over there. So someone picking up Chris Rodriguez happens in this area, a lot later in the draft. But like that, those back rooms where you don't know, hey, what's going to happen? Who is the RB2? Do we even know? Like, the depth charts are out, but we're only halfway through, coming to the end of training camp. Like, these guys don't really know who is going to be RB2 and who's going to perform well. So yeah, like, this area of the draft, it is, hey, take your shot. Take your shot at also an RB2 that is maybe behind someone that you think is potentially prone to injury. Again, we don't want to wish injuries on any player in this league, but it happens time and again. These running backs are going to play 3-4 games, and then they're going to miss 3-4 games. So waiver wires, huge. That's why that's a huge thing, and in these leagues. So yeah, you're picking these players at this point in the draft, and as it goes on, ultimately saying you're not going to play if my first 11 players are fit. You're my RB4, RB5. You're not really going to get a look in unless an injury happens. But that's the name of the game, right? So. Yeah, it's like I said. So that doesn't really answer your question.
Yeah. Well, it does, right?
I think there are certain circumstances when, yes, you should be looking at handcuffs, but I would not make it my definitive strategy.
I agree with that statement too. Last year, I had Tyler Algier handcuffed with Bijan Robinson, and there were times where my team got a little banged up, and I had to use Algier as my flex, and it just so happened in 1 or 2 of these weeks, he actually outscored Bijan. And so it was like, hey, Bijan racks up 150 yards, but Tyler Algier got 2 touchdowns. So it was like on short yard carries and stuff. So I do like that. Obviously we don't wish injury on anybody, which is kind of why I took J.K. Dobbins. I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan, obviously, as you can see in the back. I just want J.K. to be healthy for like more than 1 year. So it's like when I took him, I'm like, I'm really hoping for Dobbins to have a freaking year this year and kind of, break out a little bit and show what he can do throughout a whole season. But I like that backfield with Harvey and Dobbins. And again, I mean, I've got Dobbins. I didn't intend for it to happen, but my previous pick was Cortland Sutton. And I don't usually handcuff or tie a wide receiver with a running back either. I actually advise against it because it typically doesn't work out. If one of those guys goes off, the other one isn't. So, having those two guys on the team. But again, who are you going to start? Who are you going to have on the bench? I don't plan on starting Dobbins unless something, happens. But something I will plan on starting. So, picking guys like that are on the same team. I did that a couple of times, unbeknownst to me, just kind of picking the same strategy as you mentioned before. You're picking the guys who have the high ceilings. You're picking the guys who you think are going to have the best years. So regardless of bye week situations and that kind of stuff. One of my favorite picks, I wasn't actually going to take Dobbins at that point. I was hoping I was hoping that Godwin would have fallen to me first. I would have went Godwin and Dobbins at that point. That was probably my favorite pick out of the 8th, just because Godwin went so late. And I know that everybody looking at Mbuka about, hey, he's going to be the number 1, and look at the highlight reel he's putting on already in training camp. Godwin is still a really good wide receiver. So, for him to fall down as a number 2 wide receiver, fall down to number 8, and to, be in an offense where now you've got, a little backstory of Baker Mayfield has something to prove this year. He's in a contract year. Him and Tampa Bay couldn't get it worked out. So, the attitude that Baker Mayfield is probably going to bring this year is that I'm going to show you guys what I can do, and I'm going to prove you wrong. And then maybe I go somewhere else and get a big contract that you didn't want to give me. So I look forward to that kind of storyline, within the NFL season as well. Also looking at round 8, you had Matthew Stafford in there. Obviously, MVP quarterback. I don't even think he was drafted in most leagues last year because he had back issues. So that was a kind of not really a surprising pick, but I think it was because of the issues where he got drafted a little bit later. And it's that team's quarterback 1. But that's probably what you're going to see with your standard 8th round pick. And getting into the 9th here, we've got the turn. Like I mentioned before, I took Pittman, and there's another guy. You've got DK Metcalf. I've got Pittman. It's one of those situations where, we might be a little angry with each other as, hey, that's his guy again. I hope DK doesn't go off when I'm playing you.
I know, but I was going to say, and it's going to be the week we play each other too.
And then we go
whichever way.
We go on a little bit of a wide receiver run here, and I love bringing this kind of thing up. So we go Pittman, Higgins, Reed, Myers, and you stop the whole thing with Jordan Mason, which draft strategy that you should also follow is that typically if you've got these guys at 4 positions in a row, definitely 5 positions in a row, you're not getting the top tier guy in that position anymore. You're reaching for something. So, Pittman, Higgins, Reed, Myers, all pretty much within that same kind of category. You pivot, go Jordan Mason, which he could be with the health of with his counterpart there in Minnesota, could be the number 1 guy. Obviously, Minnesota traded for Jordan Mason from San Francisco. He had some luck in that scheme. That should be a pretty decent pickup there for Minnesota and Jordan Mason.
Yeah, that was exactly my thought process. I think he's going to be RB1.
Sorry to take Minnesota. That from you.
No, but that's it. Like exactly what you've said. Like, and that's what all of the things you've said. Like, 4 wide receivers in a row. Like the value there kind of like disappears in this round. So it's like, hey, like especially with me, with the fact that like with my build, I know that I already have like 4 wide receiver 1s. I've got that nailed down. I'm not too confident in my running backs. And you see that here with my picks, like Harvey, Mason, and then Bill. Like I'm picking potential RB1s that are risky, but like I need 1 or 2 of them to pay off.
Yeah.
Because I I need a running back. So at this point, that was why I end up going 3 running backs in a row. And it just so happened to work out that for me, where it is, like if you look at that entire run of you're in the ninth and 10th round, there's only 3 running backs taken in the entirety of those 2 rounds, and I get 2 of them.
Yep.
So for the value that was left on the board at that time, I feel like I've got some great running back value because everyone else has kind of already got their running backs. And that's kind of what you find with again, we talk about the way that you approach a draft and the way everybody else is. You've got to be able to look at that board and understand what is going on and try and get a grip on how's everybody else's build looking? Like, what do they need? Who are they going to take? Who's going to be left for me? Like, if I don't take that position at this point. And mine, like I said, the way it was is like I knew that in the middle here, I need to take some shots at running back. And fortunately, the way it went at this point in the draft, no one else wanted to. Everyone else was like, oh, we need to get some receivers because we need to play 3. So now you get that, why you get the run of receivers and a bunch of wide receivers going there. And this is where we see a lot of the tight ends start to come out. People that didn't want to take the elite tier now start to go, well, hey, we need a tight end. Like, so you get, 6 tight ends in these two rounds. So for me there, just to sit there and go, hey, like this is the way I went into it. This kind of fell into my lap a little bit that I get left with being able to take at that time 3 potential RB1s.
Yeah.
For some pretty good value. If
I think that's excellent value. That was going to be one of the things that I brought up. Your 8th, 9th, and 10th pick, are they the number 1? Are they the number 2? Obviously, Jordan Mason. You got Aaron Jones, who was taken 2 rounds later. And I hate to bring up age when it comes to a running back, because I will defend Derrick Henry all day long. But Aaron Jones is 31. Not to mention that the last 2 of the last 3 years, he only played 11 and 12 games. So it's not like he's a spring chicken. He's getting hurt quite a bit. Jordan Mason could very well take over that role. And I think the only reason why Jordan Mason falls that far is because of the quarterback situation that they now have there between Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy. If you don't have a great quarterback, it's going to hurt your running back because teams are going to load up the box. They'll put 7, 8 in the box and they'll just stop your running game, dead. Not that you can really do that against Jay Jetta. And then they got Juwan Jennings, they got Jordan Addison, who also went in the 8th round. So they've got a good trio of wide receivers, but it's going to be if the quarterback can actually stand back there and make the defense back off a little bit. But to your point, you have 3 guys right there, for picking a little bit later. They could all finish, in the top 20 for running backs, potentially top 10. And picking that late, that's the value.
And that was it. Like I did, and funnily enough, like Gainwell went a couple of picks after Mason, and he was one. I was kind of torn between the 2, just purely for like again, we talked about Tampa Bay and what's happening over there. Gainwell was has gone to Tampa. Rashad White moved on to Washington. We talked about him, and like that's where I get the RB1 job with Bill. Like Bill was hyped to God knows where last season. I'm just hoping the whole fantasy football world was a year early on the hype train.
Yeah.
But Gainwell is obviously going to be the passing down back in Tampa Bay. So that was, that's where he gives you the value that Jordan Mason doesn't, like as a receiving back.
Yep.
And he kind of proved that a little bit towards the end of the season in Philadelphia. So yeah, I don't mind. Like I would have been happy with any of the 2 of those 3. Like I had them queued up, and I was like, if I get 2 of these 3 guys, then I'll be okay. Like I'm happy at running back at that point.
Yeah.
But then like you said, we get the tight ends going there. Godston, Travis Kelce, Kittle. You get it's quite funny, right? You get two of the old school. You get Travis Kelce and George Kittle go back to back in the tight ends. Both could have incredible. Both have had incredible careers. Both could have great seasons, but there's big question marks over the both of them this year.
Absolutely.
And then you get the rookie in New York, Sadiq, and you've got Godston, who had a great year last year, and I really liked him. until I then looked and saw like the depth chart for the tight end position in LA, and I'm like, these guys have got like the Chargers. I don't know who is going to be tight end one this year. Like, I genuinely think they've got 3 people that you could pick that I would say, hey, that's a great pick for fantasy if they get the ball. And in that offense, I think, like, again, we talked about it with Jacksonville. Feel like LA is the same. The potential is there for Justin Herbert to go out and show that he is that guy. And he's got some of the tools to do it. LA do have some tools to be up there in the conversation, but they have to put it out there on Sundays.
Yeah.
And they didn't really do that last season too often.
Yep. No, I love I love the pick with Gainwell there. Gainwell, obviously in Pittsburgh, he caught a lot of passes out of the backfield. 73 receptions on 85 targets. When you're talking about a 1 PPR, that's a guy that you could start in your flex every week if he's going to do the same thing in Tampa Bay, and especially behind Bucky Irving. I think he only played 10 games last year, so he's got some injury issues as well. Kenny Gainwell would have been a great choice for you there as well. Looking at those 2 tight ends, and I think that this is probably one of the weirdest and deepest drafts. You kind of mentioned the tight end depth with the Chargers, but I think in fantasy you've got a lot of tight end depth as well. Rondé Gadsden, I will say, I think Gadsden and Kelsey in their respective picks in that 9th round were both way too early. I think just because of what you mentioned with, hey, who is going to be the tight end number 1 in LA? And then Travis Kelsey coming into preseason. He didn't have the best year. Yes, he finished well last year as a tight end. Maybe Patrick Mahomes uses him a little bit more because he's not going to be as mobile. I don't see it happening. I see a decline with Travis Kelsey. I don't like him particularly well over some of these other guys that are going a round or 2 later. George Kittle, he's injured. How is he going to come back? Why is everybody hurt in San Francisco? That's just so weird. Is it that electric station or whatever the hell they're talking about? Kenyon Sadiq, I think that's an interesting one in that next round in round 10, just because coming into the draft, he looked amazing, and it was only his off-field situation that he had that dropped him out of the draft completely. But Kenyon Sadiq probably should have went at least mid-round, if not early rounds in the draft last year. And then after that, you've got Dalton Kincaid, Ferguson, Likely Andrews. I mean, I would probably take any one of those 4 over Gadsden or Kelsey. That's just me, though. The pick of Deebo Samuel, I can't remember if that was before or after he actually got signed in the 10th round there. But you kind of hinted on it again too. I want to touch on what Greg had done in this last round. Was it a oopsie? I auto drafted, and so now I've got to get some quarterbacks, or there is a this is what I do as well, and I actually do the flip flop of it. The sooner that you pick a quarterback or a tight end in the draft, it means you don't have to pick another one for a long time. You can wait longer to go ahead and get your number 2 quarterback. You can wait longer to get your number 2 wide receiver. But it usually means you can't take a top end tight end and a top end quarterback without really shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to wide receivers and running backs, obviously. So I wonder if him taking Kraft in the 6th, and then he goes, crap, I'm going to have to double up on Patrick Mahomes and Kyler Murray. I wasn't saying, oh, crap, I didn't auto draft any of my people. I went May in the 5th, and then in that 10th round, I come around the corner there, and there's 4 really good tight ends a couple of picks away from me, and I'm thinking I'm going to get, Kincaid, Ferguson, Likely, Andrews, one of these guys. Ferguson was a top 5 tight end last year in fantasy, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was number 5, maybe number 6, but he was top 5. Isaiah Likely going into the Giants organization there, where you've got Malik Neighbors. Yes, he's going to be there. It sounds like he's going to be great, but Isaiah Likely is the number 2 wide receiver there. I don't care who you put alongside of him. If you saw him in Baltimore the last couple of years, the guy's a freak. So I go back-to-back tight ends there just because the depth was so vast. And even the picks after that, it's like Goddard went a couple of rounds later. There's a couple other guys that are down there, but so that was my choice there. And we kind of talked about Krosky, your pick. I think that was a solid one. Anyone else that you think that might have been maybe a little bit of a stretch coming into round number 10 here, or anyone that you particularly like?
I think just maybe, just question marks over Dart. He's his QB2. That's more of a question mark over, do you need to pick a set, which goes back to your Greg point.
That's a
punted
valid point.
QB. Yeah. Greg punted QB, so then he we said that has to take 2 because, like, which one? The guy in the 4th spot took Joe Burrow early in the first 5 rounds, right? So he's now taken, and he's on auto. So my question there for both of them, this goes for both the 2 and the 4 pick, especially like the Bo Nix one. Do you need Bo Nix at that point?
Yep.
When, like you said, like you mentioned it, right? You very rarely see a quarterback and a tight end go to the same team in the first 5 rounds. Pete did exactly that. He's got Josh Allen in the 2nd round, Colston Loveland in the 5th. Now that means that he only has, in a league where you need to start 3 wide receivers, he only has Ladd McConkey as his only wide receiver at that point. For me, do you need Bo Nix or do you need another receiver? Do you need another running back?
Yeah, you've got 7 guys right now out of your first 11 picks that are running backs and wide receivers. Obviously, 3 running backs in that situation, you're going to have to start 2 of them. And then your wide receivers, you've got 4. You're going to start 3 wide receivers. Like you now have to put, essentially Mark Andrews in your flex, and then whoever you're going to pick next is going in your flex as well. So that kind of,
that was just quite like, again, it's not necessarily that Nix and Dart aren't value at that point in redraft leagues. That's probably where they should be going. In this particularly, the way the draft had gone, I don't think Dart or Nix needed to be picked there. There were other players that represent more value to those teams.
Absolutely.
The needs that those teams had, rather than taking a second quarterback. Now, okay, you can argue the Dart pick with Burrow because of Burrow's injury history.
Sure.
And again, I guess it's, if you're looking at it going, okay, is there value? Where is the other value? Like you said, we talked about Aaron Jones being a running back that went after. Jonathan Brooks is a huge risk. Love the kid. Hope he does really, really well. But no, like, you're basically picking another rookie.
Yeah.
At this point, because he missed his whole first season. Tyler Algier goes later in that round.
It's terrible.
Yeah. And Tyler Algier goes later in the round.
Yeah.
I probably would have had him up there as a potential. Like, if I needed a running back, like, Tyler Algier is someone, along with, even Woody Marks or Tyjae Spears, that go a little bit later. Like, for those guys that actually need flex positions, they would have been conversations. Not to mention the tight ends that you talked about. I wanted Likely to come back to me in the next round. But he didn't. So I just, like I said, I punted tight end even further down the line. So I really, because again, I fully agree with everything you said about him. And that was when I then all of a sudden go, okay, well, I'll take a defense, because defenses in this league with the scoring that's set up, like, is huge.
Yeah.
And I'll take one of the top 3, because again, I know what I'm going to do if I start this run here. If I pick a defense, the next 16 picks, a handful of defenses are going to go, and I want one of the top 4. And if I leave it, I could guarantee that at the very least that Greg was going to pick a tight end, was going to pick a defense. And therefore, on the way back, I was like, the chances of then 3 of the other 3 of the, in my opinion, the top 4 defenses, I don't think make it back to me. So I either make a choice here where I'm picking someone like Tyler Algier, or, Stephon Diggs was my choice. And fortunately, because of the free agency stuff at the time, he did make it back to me.
Oh, yeah.
So I got lucky with the fact that everyone kind of went, oh, wait, this guy's picked a defense. We kind of need to pick some defenses.
Yeah, you kind of ticked me off with that one, because I was going to pick a defense on my next roundabout, and then all of a sudden my top 6 were gone, and I'm looking at it going, I don't want the Bears or the Lions.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I'll pick up some more backup pieces, whatever.
Yeah.
But thanks for that. Oh,
sorry.
Nope, you're fine, man. So that's the first 10 rounds. And I think, boy, what do we got left? I'm just going to scroll down here a little bit. We've slowed down. You'd think it'd pick up a little bit as we're getting down to the wire here. We've got about 3 rounds left.
Yep.
Get out of there. So 3 rounds left. And we've got 2 more picks until the 18th. So some interesting picks that we'll probably get into. We'll probably have this wrapped up, hopefully, by the end of the weekend. And then maybe we'll do a show on Tuesday. We'll wrap up the whole thing, and we'll talk some smack and see who's got the best team or brags about having the best team. And we'll go from there. I can't wait for the season to start. I think this is going to be a great league. I look forward to you not winning your 3rd time in a row. So
do I. This is too much pressure.
Hey, it was great chatting with you tonight. A lot of awesome insight from you. Appreciate you coming onto the show at the last minute here. We can talk a little bit of ball. Hopefully, everybody else got some knowledge from it as well. I'm sure we will do this throughout the year. So anytime that you've got a chance, I'd like to get everybody in the league on the show, just to put a face with the name and promote the league a little bit.
Absolutely. Sounds good, man.
Awesome. Well, Chris, pleasure. And we'll see how the rest of this turns out. And we'll be talking to you online, man.
Yeah. Sounds good, man. Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah. Enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.